come see about this pimpin'. It's your decision, by choice, not force, little bitch, make your decision. I'm not finna beat your ass to go get it, the blade or the page, if not you gon' be stripping, it's pimpin'. It's your decision, by choice, not force, little bitch, make your decision. I'm not finna beat your ass to go get it, the blade or the page, if not you gon' be stripping. Bitch, I'm some pimpin'. Make your decision. Ralphie the P got bitches bringing they dividends. Running in, I need my trap ball Benjamin. Blue fake hundreds out of bitch cause she digging him. Old weed, I love a bitch that loves some old cheese. You choosing to lose with me, bitch, I hate a groupie. Old weed, I love a bitch that loves some old cheese. You choosing to lose with me, bitch, I hate a groupie. Sheesh, come with that check, you gon' need me, bitch. I bet your ass gon' be lost off this Jesus dick. Sheesh, come with that check, you gon' need me, bitch. I bet your ass gon' be lost off this Jesus dick. It's your decision, by choice, not force, little bitch, make your decision. I'm not finna beat your ass to go get it, the blade, I'm a mud sippin'. Your daily drug dealer, kick flippin' Mason to let you know I does this nigga, I plug niggas. Selling juice for the hun guns, I bust more scripts for the juice than your mom done. I be pouring up the lean. This shit is not cheap, so I'm serving up the fiends. Might be 60 a line for some red or MGP. I be getting the high for that quality and that little green shit. Talking to cheap, pay that fee if you want a cheap shit. Niggas be wanting deals on YOLO like I need this. Talking to cheap, pay that fee if you want a cheap shit. Niggas be wanting deals on YOLO like I need this. I be all my niggas on probation. Ain't no faking in our gang, and this the situation. All my niggas playing with Franklins, and we ain't nothing to play with, this the situation. All my niggas on probation. Ain't no faking in our gang, and this the situation. All my niggas playing with Franklins, and they ain't nothing to play with, this the situation. All my niggas playing with Franklins, then spent it all on Masons. Probably give me a chain of 10. This the shit I majored in. You praying to God, but I don't think it's no saving him or her. Bitch, you must make them blades work. She fucking with Ralphie, best believe I'm gonna slave her. Pay him first and we can see how this game work. Got killers in the pen for trying to see how them safes work. Stink team, we had to bleed you. You let the sack right in my face when it was green too. Stink team, we had to bleed you. You let the sack right in my face.
This is the shipping that literally went viral when I posted it on Thizzler, and literally every fucking body fucked with this idea. This is the shipping of Alexis Rhodes from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and Def the Kid from Soul Eater. This is Kid Lexus, and this is the meaning of plug theory.
Stop man, bitch, I heard. Bitch, I heard. Bitch, I heard.
Moodtrix exclusive.
I done seen these bitches turn their backs, these niggas turn to rats. You a real life pussy, but we ain't getting into that. You don't know what you getting into, then fall back. I know I'm all that, yo nigga can't get a call back. You ain't really got no pressure, and I know you be bluffing. Got a name off a name, you a one-hit wonder. Treat these hoes like they nigga, they ain't know I was coming. If you left in this fuck you, I don't know you in public. All your business is public, all my bitches is thuggin'. None of these niggas I'm cuffing, if it ain't money I want it. Bitch, I spend time to get time and you get nothing. I'm probably in your city with that shit about to flood it. You can talk that tough shit, but we know you a hoe. Pussy in the streets, but a gangster in the studio. I don't want your nigga got the head, then I was moving on. You can talk all you want, but still don't have to prove it though. You gon' make a scene, I got clips, let's make a movie, hoe. Up and ain't hit shit, bitch, what you shooting for? I know you not with the shit, so what you wasting bullets on? Bullet hoes, we'll leave your whip clip full of those. These half-stepping ass hoes, they ain't humble. Get a little bit of money, try to ball, and they fumble. Soon as they see a check, they gon' act like they love you. Soon as they blow that, they gon' have to recover. Soon as I blow mine, I'm gon' make that shit double. Ayy, this bitch funny, no money, dick sucking. Bitch, all that hate shit, it ain't gon' work out. You ain't never made 10 bands, girl, you perked out. Yeah, I'm out in Cali with Pearl. You at home fucked up, still mad at the work. I'm big boss and shit talking, you a little ass girl. Got these little niggas food, all you got is your word. Bitch, I heard. Bitch, I heard.
The most selfish, egotistical thing I've ever heard.
Bitch, I heard. All you got is your word. Bitch, I heard.
Money on my head, nigga come and knock it off. Bitch, your nigga taking orders cause that nigga not a boss. 100 rounds in that drum, I gladly drop it off. Do a skit while I'm sober, I ain't popping none at all. My old partners want me dead, I ain't going for that shit. Got my ears to the streets, got me loading up my clip. 4-5, one slugger, leave a hole like your hip. Pillow talking to that bitch like I don't know about that shit. You can talk that tough shit, but I know what you about. Pussy niggas in the addy, I can't wait till they get out. God, I pray you take me in, cause they tryna take me out. But I'm deep up in this shit, so motherfuckers say for out. Bitch, you with it or you not? Make your little ass choice. I'm a motherfucking boss, you a little ass boy. Heard y'all still talk the addies, just some little ass choice. I was sir on that chop, that's some little ass voice. Bitch, way less talk and more actions. With a gang full of shooters, bitch, no practice. Little bro sending hoes, nigga, no taxes. Bless a bitch from the back, I'm a no bad dreadhead with me, and he won't go for none. Gang full of knuckleheads, and they let us shoot for fun. Give a task to my mans, and I bet he get it done. Whole gang move as one, so he never one-on-one. Bitch.
Moodtrix exclusive.
But I was seeing the Avengers Infinity War. So the OG at my job told me to go see it twice because I didn't see the ending. When I didn't see the ending, he said there was something special for me there. So here's what happened. At the time, there was this group of people who tried to take me down. And one of those members sent out 2 girls to watch that movie with me. What happened is they left one seat available. There were 2 girls and I was watching in the highest place in the movie theater. So in the middle came 2 bad girls with jeans and their asses were fat. So what happened was this: she sits 1 seat across from me, but she pulls up her pants in front of me, and then she goes 1 seat over. So I'm like, okay, this is obviously a setup. So I already knew it was a trap, but I decided to get at them in bits and pieces because I was enjoying the movie. Now, one of the things that happened when as I was watching the movie, I was observing them to the point where it's like, I know you guys don't like this movie and you guys are literally here to set me up, but beyond the setup part was basically what happened was this. They were using their Snapchats and shit. They were on their Snapchats and they weren't even paying attention to the movie. And so, you know what I do is I talk to them. I'm all like, you got Snap? Obviously. And she's like, no. And so she does that little thing where girls trail their feet when they're horny and they're trying to admit they're not. And so I'm like, oh, me? That's not gonna do anything. I'm talking through the movie like an arrogant black person, but I'm not, because I understand what the fuck they're trying to do. And after she said no, I'm all like, okay, they're gonna keep teasing me. Okay, they kept on teasing me. But once they realized it didn't work, I asked them specifically, are you gonna stay for the credits? And she said yeah, and stuff like that. But as soon as it got to that part, that last part, where I'm all like, that's not gonna do anything, they left the movie theater. But what happened was, the person who sent them gave them an ultimatum. It's like, if you fail to sign them up for false rape accusation, you guys are going to die. And since they failed their mission, they accepted their death. They left the theater. Couldn't accomplish their mission. They knew the death was coming, so they decided to go out early, and they died. He said, if you can't set them up for a false rape accusation. That was a very, very tragic story I had to get past. Now, what is really... There was a time where I was known for being headmaster of the Bay Area. It all started back when I was trying to come up, and I used Yami Yugi as the Bay Area rapper Neff the Pharaoh. It was an animated music video stating my prominence and my dominance in the Bay Area, of me being a pillar, me being a foundation that everybody revolves around, me being Moodtrix. hip hop truly rose. When I tagged Nefta Pharaoh in the AMV on Instagram and they saw Nefta Pharaoh as Yugi Moto, they automatically declared me a legend. But then something happened. Because I was so content, because everything was going my way, because I've earned my respect from legendary rappers like E40, I Am Sue, every single Bay Area rapper that was top tier respected me, Mr. Fab. They all respected me to a point where I forgot about everything that happened before I became famous, before anything happened, literally. You know when you go on a hot date with a girl and you forget about all the bad shit that happened the night before? That's how I felt every day. When I started making AMV after AMV after AMV is when I was the most prominent. But here was the thing. There was the underlying meaning that, so it went from being immature to step my game up, which is a form of being immature because they're not being considerate of the other person, which is why when it happened, when somebody tried to call me out back in the day about being a little kid, back when I was AMV heavy and I was gaining everybody's respect, they automatically hit them with the perspective of somebody who's been there, done that, like, yo, that's not his fault. I've been in a similar situation. They already stood up, especially since I come from a struggle of so many rappers, so many people have went through the same thing as me, that when a little kid tried to call me out saying that, oh, he still doesn't have his shit together, he's like, oh, I was a rapper, and I grew up in a group home. They literally gave him the whole talk before it even happened of why being ghetto ain't shit, and why he's a good person, and why we need him to be a pillar for the Bay, because he stays out of trouble, because he supports Japanese cartoons, because he's trying to expand our media is why we need him. And these are the same people who Arturo listens to. So these are the people who talk about selling drugs, doing this and that, but they have contracts on paper that restrict them from literally living that life that they talk about. And I know that about the industry, and at the time it didn't matter what I did, because not only were the rappers considerate about my situation and that they shut the people who try to make fun of me up, is that I can prove to them that I can get a precious girl now, so it wasn't anything. So this is back when I was famous on Snapchat for macking on girls, and I was famous for making AMVs in the Bay Area, and everybody tried to tell everyone, so it was no confusion that I was a grown-ass man. There was literally people saying first thing, the reason why he's so content with watching cartoons and doing this and that when he could be going to parties is because he's been there, done that. I bet you he already has a kid and shit. Literally, hood niggas who have been through what I've been through that made it, let him know that, yo, he comes from a family that told him a flaky truth that he figured out was a full lie back when he was an adult. So I'm killing shit, and nobody's questioning if I'm immature now. The reason why I have to literally give you this long introduction for this video is because this was the creation of one of my biggest challenges in life, and why it reminded me why it's better to take a challenge instead of looking at the tower all the time. Sometimes it's better to constantly go through chaos than to be in peace. So it started off with me already being famous for Yu-Gi-Oh! Me already being the master of AMVs, me already having an obsession for Alexis Rhodes. So before we get into the detail of what is this video about, let's just say Alexis Rhodes was my obsession back when I was in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, and everybody loved my Alexis Rhodes obsession. I used to have this fan shipping with Def the Kid and Alexis Rhodes because they both have yellow eyes and they both have different color schemes for their outfits, and I would call it Kid Lexus. And every single person back when I was in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber was a Kid Lexus fan. And literally, so if you don't know what that is, it's a shipping between two people from across the universe in the anime. There was originally one of Deviant Art when it was CC from Code Geass and Def the Kid. But me, I made Alexis and Def the Kid because they both come from a school, they both are high tiers in that school, and they both have massive sex appeal, and they both have really bright eyes, and they symbolize why opposites attract. I called it Kid Lexus. Now, before even cosplay was a thing, I would see black girls with blonde hair extensions, and I would see black guys with dreads walking around imitating my fan shipping of Kid Lexus. That's how popular I was, and that's how much people didn't give a fuck about anime, because now anime is cool. E40 watches anime now. E40 supports him now. There's nothing that they could say until they did something about my popularity. So we all know the reason why you need to know every single detail before I go into the depth of this whole video is that if you follow along, this whole video revolves around Yu-Gi-Oh! You may see Dragon Ball editing, you may see this and that, but this literally all revolves around Yu-Gi-Oh! My obsession for Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, I reminded myself, I'm like, you know what, I'm heavy on the first Yu-Gi-Oh! So while I try watching Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, so what I would do in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber is I would pick random episodes and I would watch Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Literally random episodes, because I was literally trying to remind myself how it felt like being on 4Kids, and everybody rocked with it, and everybody's like, oh my god, literally the same people in high school are imitating me. I would record a Yu-Gi-Oh! GX clip on Instagram, and literally it would all be like, gang, gang, and they try to imitate me with their friends saying gang, gang. I'm like, we're not in high school anymore, this isn't lunch, you can't imitate me just because I'm having fun. And them flexing that they can have friends and why I'm always alone after I've already proven why anime is the shit, and I am no longer lonely because I have the perspective of everybody supporting me now. Their philosophy versus mine is the premise of this video. So it came off like this. So I'm a heavy Alexis Roach fan. I'm a heavy Yugi Moto fan. So when one of my friends on Discord tried to tell me to go watch Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and that I haven't watched it ever since I was a little kid, and that it's actually pretty lit, and watching it as an adult may hit different, and he was exactly right, and that literally was the premise of Fight School freshman year. So when I started watching it from episode 1, I immediately got my Instagram ready, and I recorded the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX theme song, and I started singing along. We're chilling out with the crew, the schoolyard, literally. And everybody is all like, oh my god, this is so much fun. Instead of criticizing it like they used to in high school, I got all the praise that I was supposed to, literally just singing the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX theme song. And that right there, me recording myself singing nostalgia, is where we got the problem. Everybody was already an Alexis fanboy back in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, but when I recorded singing the Get Your Game On theme song is when they decided to create a gang called the Obelisk Blue. That is the introduction. That is why this video is called the Obelisk Blue. Not only was the Obelisk Blue based off the Obelisk Blue in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, the Obelisk Blue's angle was to attack my main pillar for Thizzler, which is Yugi Moto. They came at me with the angle saying, okay, he's pretty popular, so what we have to do is we have to come at him with the same analytic strategy that he thinks about when he watches Yu-Gi-Oh! That we have to go at the angle where we're gonna attack his Egyptian philosophy by picking a Yu-Gi-Oh! game based off how the system in Santa Rita Prison works. So, the Obelisk Blue was created by the most popular guy in my high school, whose name is Diamante. Diamante is his code name because I am not with profiling, and Diamante was the most popular guy in my school, in my high school. He was everything that I wasn't. He got the girl that rejected me, that was super pretty at the end of the year. So let me intervene. There was a whole point where I realized how much a girl was worth versus what it wasn't. And this guy literally added on to some of my trauma when I was a kid by making out with the same girl that rejected me with his hands on her ass, literally picking her up in the sky. He was the one who didn't graduate, who everybody laughed at, and his name was Diamante. So Diamante's name was called at the graduation ceremony, and they're all like, Diamante! And his last name, and they're all like, ha ha ha, he didn't graduate. But I'm like, ha, screw you, nerd. You never made out with a girl before. He's sitting over here his girl is worth more than the whole school. You don't even know it. This is why I used to clown on nerds back in the day. Yes, I know this perspective. Before we get that out the way, yes, it's true that being with a girl is like ecstasy, but it's like you do the drug, but where's the rest of your life? It feels as good as what you think it is, but you have a whole life out there. For all these nerds who will look at this video, I'm telling you the truth. But that guy was in a live criminal activity, and it wasn't worth it because he wasn't going to be around forever. Once he needed people with resources, it flew by. But here's why that ties so heavily in the video. Because he was such a popular guy in high school is why he got so many resources in order to create a gang to bring me down. And he called it the Obelisk Blue because blue is what he was when he was in prison. Diamante made the Obelisk Blue based off is when you get violated in there, it's either your red is for rape, yellow is for literally top class felony, and green is for a mental condition. But how it worked in the prison, they literally took this scheme from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX of slide for reds, raw yellows, and Obelisk Blue. The same way the prison works, the red is the worst, the yellow is the second worst, but the blue is general population, which is why Diamante created the Obelisk Blue based off the prison system. So their girl was actually pretty friendly. This isn't an actual shooting gang. This is a gang that was literally made to support what I feel about gangs, that they are just people who get drunk all day and get high. So at the time this shit was a joke, but this is some serious shit because they were so on point where it came to referencing my own material to bring me down that they made this based off the Matrix. Because my name was Moodtrix, what it was is they were the people to bring everyone together to bring one person down. Just like they did Neo, they made me a real life version of Neo, and we're all like, Moodtrix is killing the rap game. He's not leaving room for anybody else. So what we have to do, metaphorically speaking, they love my material, they love my content, but where they're coming at is we're gonna give him the only challenges. Nobody's challenging him at the point. We are going to stand up and create a game specifically made to break him down so he can have a challenge. That was the whole meaning of the Obelisk Blue. Today is the exact opposite, but back in the day, they created anime gangs in order to bring me down because they knew I was stuck with no competition. I'm not in high school anymore, so they decided to bring a whole high school gang in order to fuck with me. And I loved facing the Obelisk Blue. They're one of my best opponents of all time. They're Lily. They kept me on my ends and they reminded me why it is good to accept challenges. And their goal was, because they were more heavily involved in criminal activity, what they were going to do is, since I stayed out the way and since I didn't do my research, their job was to stop me before I reached the peak in my career where I got everything on paper. So what they would do is that they would use their knowledge of the system versus me putting two and two together, which is the ultimate war. Somebody did the research, but somebody is them trying to trick me into criminal activity with me not knowing how things can lead to other things. And by the time I figured out with my genius brain what the plan was, it would be too late. I'm already stuck in the plan. But that was the whole problem with the Obelisk Blue, is that was the ultimate war. It was me against the army of people who set up traps, and I had to literally, and I had to avoid every trap. So any single human interaction I was aware of, if somebody offered me to go smoke, I would be like, where we gonna go? And this and that. That's how me and the Obelisk Blue operate, literally. It was them trying to say that, it started off with them trying to say I'm selling myself short, I should start gorillaing girls. This is a time where I never gorillaed a girl, but I knew girls wanted to be gorillaed. But I never gave them that because it disrespected everything I worked hard for as a video editor. That was the Obelisk Blue's first plan, is to prevent me from getting jobs. Their goal was to make sure, because I didn't do my research, to put me in a position where I can't come back from, because I didn't know the position I was going to be put in. Because I didn't put in the work. I thought because I stay out the way, that when a situation comes with a shitload of complexity, that I can't just take a step back. Because the moment I take a step, I fall for a trap. So I literally have to have a bird's eye point of view looking down to avoid the Obelisk Blue's traps. So before I would even get into a situation, I would have to be aware of how the Obelisk Blue is going to react. If you go back to Dark Game, Chapter 6 was one of the best examples of how I dealt with the Obelisk Blue. When they tried to get me to go cop a feeling. Then when they're in the movie theater, literally a girl that was in the Obelisk blue pulled her pants up in front of me and literally sat distance from me. I'm like, it's because you play high school games is why you can't get me, the Obelisk blue. Their downfall every time was putting stuff that I already discarded in front of my face, acting like I didn't know anything better, because these girls that joined the Obelisk blue joined because of clout. Yes, random hot girls, random hood bitches started adding the Obelisk blue, and guess who was the heads up? The top 3 contenders of the Obelisk blue. It was Diamante, Dabby, and Arturo. No way Arturo was gonna pass the opportunity up. Arturo wishes he could still live in high school over and over again, where he had the precious clout to save him. He was put in that position with the Obelisk blue. And so the Obelisk blue gets its count from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and so the bitches that joined the Obelisk blue know who the progenitor is. But the Obelisk blue tries to convince that I'm the same as I was in high school, and their job is to make sure I'm in the same position I was when I'm in high school. It couldn't happen right away, but they needed to see what I knew and what I didn't know. So here's how the creation of the Obelisk blue was set in place. So here's how it goes. I just beat anti-Itachi in a fight, and how I know that this is power scaling for the Obelisk blue is that literally their job was to get me 5150 so they can dope me up with some medicine so I won't be able to think smart. Literally, that was one of their goals. They had many goals, but their main problem is how to re-trap him in a location to a point where he can't get out. And so their creation happened back when I was not worrying about this shit at all. I literally just took it as a joke when they said that the Obelisk blue was being created. I'm like, really? This shit is so fucking funny. But then I think about it. They literally had a meeting where Anti-Brother Itachi trying to bring me down. So there was this time back when I was in junior high where Anti-Brother was showing me Slam Dunk, and he was trying to tell me, oh, Shikamaru Nara, oh, Kimimaru, this and that. Your Japanese names ain't got shit on my animes. He's all like, I'm all about the Sagaraki Hanamichi. He's like, what the fuck you know about that Ishido Joe? Your Japanese names ain't shit compared to mine. That shit was so... I gotta admit, he was funny, but that was why he was a piece of shit. So, literally, there was this one time that gave me a hint that he was collaborating with the Obelisk blue when I'm watching anime and he starts talking about Full Metal Alchemist names. He's like, oh, I don't wanna fuck with that Uzumaki. I wanna fuck with Hohenheim and those dope ass names. I'm like, really? You're hanging out with those little kids? I mean, and I realized the only reason why they were doing all those interactions, long story short, is because they weren't getting pussy. So the Obelisk blue is literally a whole bunch of kids with material things trying to bring down one grown-ass man with a bird's eye view perspective. That whole plan to make sure I get 5150 after I'm waiting for my brother at the dentist was all orchestrated by the Obelisk blue. So when I beat my brother in a fight, it let me know that I am number one, because Anti-Brother Itachi beat the whole line. He beat the whole line of the Obelisk blue. I'm like, of course you can beat the whole Obelisk blue, the little fucking kids. But in their mind, it's all like, oh, this is why he's the gang lord. This is why he is this and that. So I ignored the Obelisk blue existed, and I changed my name, Moodtrix the Gang Lord, after they tried to slander me for my birthday. So I literally took advantage of my name of the Gang Lord the day after they hacked my Instagram. After all the work I put in for the Bay Area, it didn't matter. So I came back immediately and called myself Moodtrix the Gang Lord. So this is why you shouldn't take people like Diamante and Anti-Brother Itachi seriously, because they can only lead a pack of children. But those children knew a whole lot more than I knew, but it didn't matter because of their intent. Because I was pure at heart, and because they kept on attacking me, and I had better foundations why I kept on getting out of the situations that they put me in. But going into further detail, the creation of the Obelisk blue, the reason why everything hit so hard and why I loved it is because the journey started like this. When they were trying to find recruits is when they started watching Yu-Gi-Oh! GX from episode 1. But they were starting to make the same mistakes I was, because they were dealing with Arturo, Dabby, all those potheads. They were falling asleep on episodes just like I was when I made my promise to Mr. Pleasure, because they're pretending to like anime just to fit in instead of actually being about it. Yeah, they can get to the theme song, but what happens when you actually want to hear about some dank shit and they're keeping 4 kids dialogue? It puts them to sleep. And that was their problem. They weren't going all out. What they would do was, they would slap Barry music while they're in the car. They would have a card to flex on me, and they would have a whole deck of Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are more powerful than mine if I would check them, but they would never duel. And I knew that whole chunk of perspective without even thinking, because that all came second nature by me, because I know how they operate. So here's what happened. So I used to have a friend in high school called Tanner Banner. And literally, the creation of Obelisk Blue came, and they recruited Tanner. And literally, you know Arturo was gonna do this shit. Ain't no way Arturo wasn't gonna do this shit. He goes up and pretends that Tanner is Professor Banner. And he's like, Professor Banner? Literally throwing up the Star Trek symbol like a gang sign and shit. You knew Arturo was gonna do that shit. And if you wanna know, if you're a fucking nerd and you're watching this, do not think Arturo did anything different. When something like that is in creation, you know what's going on. You know that Arturo's gonna hook up for Tanner, and that you know that he's gonna call Tanner Professor Banner. Do not act like anything can fucking happen, because that's how they fool you. Oh, Moodtrix, you weren't there. There's no way he can say that like it's in your head. You're stuck in your head. That's schizophrenia. You're like, no, that's putting two together, and you know that has to happen. There's no way Arturo was gonna pass that up. Professor Banner. No, but all that was in the creation of the Obelisk Blue. But since I know the dumbness, since I know that they're potheads, they can't rep an anime game correctly. But the whole point of why the Obelisk Blue fell was due to their leader, Diamante. So here's what happens. My relationship with Diamante is like this. Diamante always showed me respect when we were in school, but Diamante was always fucking up. But he was a very nice person, but he comes from a gang-dominant territory, where the point where he listens to gangster rap, but he would always treat me cool because I was a turf dancer in high school, you know? He didn't think of me being anything close to retarded, you know? The most popular guy in school always paid me homage, but the problem was he was never in a position because he was always getting in trouble. So, but I felt that when they yelled his name and everybody laughed at him, I told him what was up after I graduated. I'm like, dude, you get better grades than me. And stop trying to say that I'm a devil's advocate and that I'm dick riding the devil, because I've actually made out with a girl before, and I'll bitch that shitty ass high school. And even though Diamante is dumb as fuck, somebody tried to burn me up saying, why would you compare yourself to somebody who just admitted he just got out of jail? Like, why are you less than someone who just got out of jail? Because that guy is still more multidimensional. And if you want to know the reason why I say he had better grades, is because I saw his grades senior year where we all had easy classes, but they're still not special ed classes. Think about it. But their problem is, we live in the real world now, and now there's no such thing as being judgmental. There's no such thing as being this and that. So they're basing their foundation off of pay shit, but it's not, because their foundation was based off of fun. The Obelisk Blue was very, very fun. What they used to do is they would use to bring girls to set me up at my job. I used to view it as a challenge. I'm like, okay, this is just like anime. You're putting me through obstacles that I'm forced to overcome. That's why I used to love my job, because I used to love facing those challenges head on. I used to love them trying to set me up for sexual harassment just so I can make their panties wet. I used to love proving them wrong every single time. I used to play retarded at my job specifically so I wouldn't get in trouble, and it didn't work. And that's literally how challenging it was. They had full perspective of like, oh, I know you have something to come home to, so I'm not gonna leave you alone. Exactly what their thing was. They were literally trying to fool my perspective at the job. Like, they would drop a dish face down, a dinner plate face down, to make me think that symbolism is real, to make me think that they're gonna perform some type of ritual, and they would put multiple face downs in order to fool me. I'm like, just ignore it. I'm gonna have to put them face up in the dishwasher anyway. So it all got down to a time. The story that happened after my job was the Obelisk Blue knew that I was ahead of them in certain areas. So what they did was they forced me into an area where I had to stop or I'm ahead. So here's what happened. So after I quit my job, these two girls pulled me over and asked if I want to make some money. And they fucked up my credit. So I went along with it, and they convinced me because they knew that if they told me what was up first thing, that they could trick me. So here's what happened. So this girl made me put multiple lines. They used my card, my actual, my this and that in order to get 3 phone lines. And what happened was this. Because I was so friendly, because they treated me just like anti-brother Itachi, is where I was so crazy. I was slapping music in their car. I was doing everything. And where it came down to it, C told me she was going to give me money. Yes, C paid me money. C did everything. What they did was they fulfilled every single promise. Those two girls, they had fucked me over at the time. I still had everything intact. And literally, it was so funny because they paid me for one line. I decided to slap her ass over and over and over again at T-Mobile for 45 fucking minutes. Literally, and she grabbed my dick. And I see a black guy on the way to the second line, and he's wearing an Adidas jacket. And I'm thinking that it's an Obelisk Blue. And it is an Obelisk Blue, but he's so cool and collect that I'm thinking that he's on my side because he's black and shit, right? And so they're viewing us, and they're on the same highway, and they're looking at us. And he literally just puts his hand out and says, "Oh, bye," and shit like that. So I didn't know what that meant. So here's what happened. So after I get done slapping her, she buys me a 20 piece of chicken from Popeyes. Literally, I just got done getting money. I'm like, oh, this is all good. But I didn't know how much of a heavy principle that using my information is. So what happens is I got everything I wanted, but I came home to a big ass bill, a big ass phone bill. And so where they failed to realize, they thought they got me because I was on my way of becoming my own entrepreneur, my own company. I was literally so close because I was still doing my AMVs. I was still doing everything. So what they tried to do was they slowed me down by fucking up my credit score. But then I'm thinking about it, I'm still only 23. Wouldn't it make more sense for me to wait for it to get off my credit back when I'm 30, when I'm more mature to have a company? What they did was because they were being immature, they played into my trap. That's the exact mindset, and that's why they lost, because I was willing to take my time when they were rushing to bring me down. They tried to bring me down, fan made 19, and it didn't work. And the whole reason why the Obelisk Blue was created was to keep me on my toes and keep me challenged. Now after the Obelisk Blue is gone, I literally had no one to challenge me, no one to give me obstacles, because at this point, it was being a dead horse. But the Obelisk Blue had a lot of haymakers. They were literally the biggest threat to me in society. But they failed because the shit that they held onto was shit that IRA discarded. So when they trying to put me in positions where I'm faced with temptations, I know that there's other stuff in life that's more worth it. So when they try to gang up on the trivial shit is when I school them on why it's better to stay away from gang activity and why it's better to understand why gang activity isn't shit. Instead of being a nerd that's gonna be snobbish, that's gonna rely on a computer to save him when he's gonna have to compete in order to get a girl. And that was the creation of the Obelisk Blue.